radio show, completely obligation, no cost. Do this, and why I think it's important is because so many of these bands insanely struggle to get their new music heard, to get people to buy it, to get people to know it's even out. And the bad part about that is a couple things. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of really good new music, both new bands and new music from classic bands that nobody even realizes came out. And if you want to see these artists continue to make the time and effort and expense to make new music, you have to support it. Sadly, hardly any mainstream radio anymore really truly plays on a regular basis new music. And it's not overstating that it's incredibly dangerous for the music industry going forward. It really is. How can we have legendary classic bands 30 years from now if nobody plays new things now? Why would, I don't know, AC/DC continue to make new music as they just did if nobody buys it and nobody cares about it and nobody plays it? How many times do you go to a concert and what's the first thing that happens when the artist says, we're going to do a couple songs from our new record? Half the place turns around and goes and gets a beer or goes to the bathroom. And the other half, most of them tune out. Why is that? Well, honestly, most people just want to hear the hits. But how can you have hits, again, if you don't open your mind to new music? The other reason why that happens, though, is because these people have no knowledge of that new music. Their local radio station most likely has never played it for them. They're way too busy to go on YouTube or online sites to stream it and spend the time listening to it. Everybody's in a million different directions. And as a result, the stuff almost virtually gets ignored. It's also the reason why when somebody puts out a new record, like an established act, Black Sabbath, AC/DC, Aerosmith, Kiss, Van Halen, countless others, Motley Crue, they have a built-in fan base. That record will chart and make a big splash the first week or two. We entered at number 3. We're top 5. We're top whatever. Ace Frehley's record this year came in at, 11? Where are these records 3 to 4 weeks later? Often completely off the charts. Why is that? Very simple. The hardcore fan base buys it all the day it comes out. Then, because there's no true outlet to support it, the days of MTV are gone, and radio, most mainstream radio, if it's a major artist, they'll have that artist in the day that record comes out and carry on about how great the record is and play a track with them sitting there, and guess what happens? The minute that guy leaves the studio, their record's not in rotation. I visited radio stations where a program director has told me that he's really liked a new band, but he can't and won't play the record. I mean, it's because these guys are worried about their jobs. Some of them are too worried about research. Some of them, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation and a whole different philosophy. And listen, I get all sides of it. But we have a massive problem in this world right now. You have oversaturation. Record companies seem to not matter anymore. A lot of them don't seem to care. Very little follow-up and support and promotion because they don't have the money to truly support an artist anymore, or they don't want to. You have indie labels that don't have the resources to just throw records out sometimes, and they're dead on arrival, flooding the market. Anybody can make a record extremely inexpensively now because of technology. Used to mean when a record came out, it meant something. Now you can make one in your basement. And since record companies are in, it doesn't really even matter if you have one anymore as far as how a record's looked at. As a result, you have a ton of music coming out into the marketplace. You also have it coming from a million angles. You've got streams, you've got downloads. People into physical stuff still, like me, I'm into CDs, some people into vinyl. The way it's serviced, the way you find it, can you find it? You want to buy physical, where do I go? Amazon, what do I, it's crazy. And all of this just mixes into this sort of soup that we have where very little new music resonates at all. And then the artist goes out on tour and realizes that they completely lose the audience when they go into new music, so they'll maybe do one or two just to promote that they have a record out and get back to their hits. Because if it gets out that an artist is playing a lot of new music, guess what happens? Their draw goes down. And that's the only place they make music is on the live, or make money is on the live stage. Remember that Iron Maiden tour? What was it, like 5 years ago? Forget what album Maiden had out. I think it was A Matter of Life and Death. And they played the entire new record, 75 minutes, start to finish. People almost rioted in America at those shows. Now, I'm not saying you should go to that extreme, but I'm just saying that there's such oversaturation, there's such overstimulation, and there's so much good and, quite honestly, a lot of bad music that's put out every year. But the good stuff is getting mixed in with the bad stuff, and people can't differentiate, and everyone is just totally indifferent about it, it seems. And it's a huge, huge problem, I think. You have, and this is another thing I've talked about in the history of this podcast, you have another huge problem where everybody's in at least 2 to 3 bands at the same time. So the focus is all over the place. They can't really commit to any one band because they're throwing their line in so many different waters to see which one catches on. Because you don't know. You have to multitask. So the uniqueness, the specialness, the cool factor of that one record a year with that one musician you love coming out is gone. Now that guy might be putting out 4 records with 4 different bands a year because he has to stay in the game, out of sight, out of mind. And a lot of these records go away in a week. So there's so many things going on in the music industry, and a lot of them not good at all when it comes to the potential of hearing, being exposed to, selling new music. And again, I'm talking about new music from new bands as well as new music from established bands. And that's the real bummer for me. There's a ton of really good new music from bands that have been around 20, 30, 40 years that really doesn't stand a chance in hell. If you're a kid, if you're 22 and you're just coming out with your new band, you got a fighting chance. Because you're considered new, you could be the next big thing. If you're 50 and you're coming out with new music, I mean, there's some artists that don't even bother. Play the hits. If you're 50 and you were in a band in 1983 for 3 years that never had a hit, but you've reformed and made a new record, forget it completely. These bands will go out on the road, they'll draw 30 people, and their records will sell 10 copies. I've seen it. Now, selfishly, a lot of those sort of bands I love. So I don't want to rain on their parade. I'd love to be wrong, but I see it every day. It's brutal. So all of this I tell you because this